Have you ever felt like just one word can ruin your entire day? A cutting criticism, a dismissive look, a venomous comment, and suddenly, you're no longer yourself. Your blood boils, your heart races, your mind fills with sharp retorts you can't contain. It's as if someone else has taken over, someone fragile, wounded, unarmed. This person lives inside you, and they have a name, Shadow. The truth few dare face is this: difficult people don't have the power to steal your peace. They only reveal how much you've already lost it. Carl Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it destiny. But it's more comfortable to blame the other, isn't it? Say, he pissed me off, she humiliated me, they made me explode, as if hell were outside, when in fact, it was always here inside. Because every rude gesture, every unkind word, every rejection hits directly at the wounds you refuse to look at. That's the truth that hurts. It's not about them, it never was. It's about you, about the pain you've buried, the insecurities you pretend you don't have, the memories you've pushed into the basement of your subconscious. This collection of shadows you carry in your chest, without realizing, it is what makes you so vulnerable to the actions of others. When someone puts you down, it's not just a comment, it's the shadows screaming, "I was already afraid of being small." When someone ignores you, it's not just neglect, it's the shadow crying, "I always thought I was unworthy of attention." And so every difficult person who crosses your path becomes a mirror, a teacher in disguise, pointing out where it still hurts. The problem isn't the shadow's existence. The problem is pretending it's not there. Because the more you deny it, the more it controls you. It takes control of your reactions, transforms small offenses into internal wars, and erodes your inner peace. But here's the good news. The shadow isn't here to destroy you. It's here to teach you. Sarah discovered this on a gray Monday afternoon. She was an intelligent, dedicated, but always insecure woman. During a meeting, a colleague ridiculed her idea in front of everyone. She felt her face burn, her eyes water, her throat close. She wanted to scream with rage, but she stopped. She took a deep breath, and for the first time, she asked herself, why does it hurt so much? And in that moment of brutal honesty, she realized it wasn't about him. It was about her. About that little girl inside, who always thought she needed the approval of others to be worth anything. And it was in that moment that the shadow stopped screaming. Because when you dare to look at the shadow, you take away its power to control your life. And when you do that, no one can rob you of your peace. Yes, looking within hurts, but it's a kind of pain that heals. Because the peace you seek isn't found in the silence of others. It's found in your own inner silence. True freedom isn't living in a world without difficult people. It's being so whole inside that none of them can break you. The next time someone shoots an arrow at you, remember the arrow that hurts you the most was already lodged there. Only you can pull it out. And when you do that, you will discover that nothing and no one has the power to take you away from yourself anymore. Have you ever noticed that before you explode, there's a second of silence, an instant in which you can choose, a tiny gap between pain and reaction? Most of us don't see this space. We pass over it, blinded by anger, enslaved by impulse. But it's in this gap that your freedom lies, because no one, absolutely no one, can force you to react. Only you can decide. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This choice begins the moment someone provokes you, and you, instead of losing yourself in fury, take a deep breath and look within. Breathe. It seems too simple, but it's precisely this simplicity that escapes us when we're attacked. Because anger is quick. It wants to get out in front, hit, scream, bite. But when you breathe, you take back control. You are no longer a passenger on a burning ship. You are the captain. John discovered this one rainy night. He was with his childhood best friend at a bar, laughing and drinking, when he heard the phrase that cut like a razor. "So have you thought about getting a real job? Or are you going to play artist for the rest of your life?" His friend's laughter echoed like a mockery. John felt a knot in his stomach. His hands trembled. He could answer right then and there, spit out a barrage of painful truths, end years of friendship in one explosion. But by some miracle, or maybe because he'd been trying to listen to his own shadow, he breathed. He was silent for 3 seconds. Just 3. But it was enough to realize that the pain wasn't just about that night. It was about all the times in childhood when you felt a weight, a failure, a nothingness. He didn't answer. He smiled. And calmly he said, "I enjoy what I do, and that's what matters to me." His friend didn't know what to say. The matter died there, and John returned home feeling, perhaps for the first time, that no one could define his worth anymore. Here's how it works. Between the trigger and the response lies a space. And in that space, you can decide whether to let yourself be drawn into someone else's script or write your own. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You don't need to be a Zen master. You just need to learn to pause. When someone pushes you, breathe. When someone hurts you, breathe. When someone mocks you, breathe. Because every breath brings you back to the present, brings you back to yourself. At first, it may seem futile, but that's exactly how peace is built. It's not all at once. It's breath by breath, choice by choice, silence by silence. And the more you practice, the more you realize, anger isn't you, hurt isn't you, the impulse isn't you. You're the one who chooses. As Jung reminds us, we are not condemned to repeat our unconscious patterns forever, but we must stop running on autopilot. We must, as he said, make the unconscious conscious. This is the task of those who want to be free. Youth is, you'll continue to encounter difficult people along the way. Always. But the difference lies in your own. Whether you let them dictate your narrative or write each line calmly and consciously. And this isn't just about being calmer. It's about being more self-possessed. Because when you choose peace in the face of chaos, you inspire others to do the same. You become a silent example of emotional courage. So breathe now, while you listen to me, and decide that no one else will take away your peace without your permission. And since we're on this path together, a path Jung laid out for all of us who seek to know ourselves, I invite you to continue walking with me. Here whenever you need, we'll explore these spaces of silence, these small freedoms, together. So sign up now, stay tuned, because this is just the beginning of what you can become when you stop reacting and start choosing. Breathing and choosing is a great start. But the truth is, it's not enough to simply learn to respond differently. Sometimes, you need to go further, prevent certain situations from even reaching you. Because no matter how much you work on your shadow, no matter how much you learn to breathe when triggered, you're still human. You still have limits. And recognizing these limits is essential to protecting your peace. Carl Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." And when you awaken to yourself, you understand that you don't need, nor should you, allow others to enter and disturb your inner home. Because your peace is like a garden, and a garden doesn't flourish when everyone is allowed to trample it carelessly. For a long time, Mia didn't understand this. She worked all day, raised her young son alone, and still took calls late at night to listen to her friends' complaints, solve family problems, and put out other people's fires. Until one day she looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself, pale, exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, a huge void inside her. That night, when the phone rang again, it was Lisa, a friend always full of urgencies. Mia took a deep breath and decided not to answer. She sent a short message, "Friend, I love you, but right now, I need to take care of myself. We'll talk tomorrow." She turned off her cell phone, lay down next to her son, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Relief, because saying no to others, at that moment, was saying yes to herself. This is what Jung was talking about when he referred to the process of individuation. It's not just about knowing yourself intellectually, but about becoming a whole person, someone who doesn't dissolve to please others, someone who knows how far they can go and where they should stop. Many confuse boundaries with selfishness, But boundaries are self-love. They're clarity. They're the most honest way to show the world who you are and what's important to you. When you don't have boundaries, you end up being swallowed up by the expectations, needs, and crises of others. You become a puppet of other people's needs, always trying to please, always saying yes, while inside you become increasingly empty. And when you empty yourself too much, any provocation, no matter how small, becomes an unbearable weight, because you no longer have the strength to maintain your own peace. That's why it's so important to learn to protect your energy. It's not about closing yourself off, isolating yourself, or building insurmountable walls. It's about choosing who you let in. It's about putting fences around your garden so it stays fertile, so the flowers don't get crushed. You can start small. Ask yourself, what drains me? What makes me feel invaded? When do I lose myself? And little by little, you start to notice patterns. That person who always comes to criticize, the colleague who's always throwing tasks at you, the relative who insists on invading your privacy. It's not wrong to say no. It's not wrong to choose where to spend your energy. It's curious how, once you learn to set boundaries, people even respect you more, because they feel like you've finally become whole. And those who are whole command respect, without shouting, without imposing themselves violently, just by the serene way they exist. As Jung also reminds us, what you deny subordinates you. What you accept transforms you. Accepting that you can't and shouldn't bear everything is liberating. Accepting that you have a core that deserves care is revolutionary. Some people will walk away when you start setting boundaries, and that's okay. Not everyone can stand being around someone who no longer bends to the will of others, but those who stay will stay for who you really are, not who they manipulated you into being. Always remember, peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is a daily choice, made from the small boundaries you choose to respect. It's a silent commitment you make to yourself, and the more you respect your boundaries, the less difficult people will be able to drag you into their storms, because they'll realize your peace is guarded by invisible gates, and only those you allow can enter. Once you learn to breathe, choose, and protect your boundaries, another test arises: criticism. No matter how much you grow, no matter how much you change, there will always be someone ready to point the finger, question your choices, laugh at your failures. And sometimes, the pain doesn't come from the criticism itself, but from what it reveals: that old wound, still raw, still raw. It's just that every criticism has something of a mirror. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." A simple phrase, but it changes everything when you really look at it sincerely. Because the words that hurt you the most are not the unfair ones. They are the ones that touch precisely that part of you that you have not yet learned to accept. When someone calls you irresponsible, it may be because, deep down, you fear that you're not up to the task. When someone says you don't know how to express yourself, maybe it's because you still carry the insecurity of feeling invisible. When someone criticizes your life choice, it may be because you yourself don't yet fully trust it. That's why criticism hurts so much, because it illuminates parts of you you'd rather keep hidden. The shadow can't stand being exposed. But here's the truth: you can turn this pain into something greater, because every criticism can be a chance to see yourself better, to know yourself completely. It's not about accepting every offense as truth, nor about swallowing unfair judgments, but about having the courage to ask, why does this affect me so much? Where did this pain originate? Alex found this out the hard way. He was a dedicated but insecure programmer. When his boss criticized his code in front of everyone, calling it sloppy, Alex felt his face burn, his heart race. For days, he mulled over that sentence. At first, he just wanted to prove himself right, get revenge, be better just to rub it in his boss's face. But when he sat down to reflect, he realized something he'd never realized before. His comment only hurt so much because it echoed an old memory, his father telling him he always did everything halfway. And that's when Alex decided, instead of fighting his boss, he would work to heal the wound his father left. And little by little, the criticism lost its power over him. Not because his boss changed, but because he changed. Not all criticism is valid. Some is just meanness, envy, gratuitous cruelty, and you can simply let those pass like the wind. But even in these, there's a hidden gift, the opportunity to show yourself that you no longer need to react, no longer need to prove anything. Silence is sometimes the best answer. To deal with criticism, you need courage. Courage to separate what's about you from what's about the other person. Courage to not let a comment destroy what you've already built within yourself. And this is only possible when you begin to look at yourself with more compassion. When you understand that flaws don't make you less worthy, less deserving of respect, less whole. They only make you human. Jung said that individuation is the process of becoming who you already are, not who others tell you to be. And no one, absolutely no one, knows your struggles, your scars, your silent battles as well as you do. So the next time someone criticizes you, take a breath, listen carefully, but also with discernment. Ask yourself, is there truth here, or is this just a reflection of his pain? If there's something you can improve, be grateful for the opportunity to grow. If there isn't, let the words come back to the speaker like an echo. And if these reflections touched something within you, if they somehow helped you look at criticism with new eyes, perhaps it's a good time to enjoy this journey. This silent gesture is also a way of saying, I choose to look at myself. Because in the end, that's what matters. Not what people say about you, but what you discover about yourself every time someone tries to hurt you. After learning to breathe when triggered, choose consciously, protect your boundaries, and turn criticism into a mirror. There's one more step on this silent journey, learning to let go. Because even when you do everything right, respond calmly, set boundaries, understand the source of the pain, something can still linger inside you. A rage that won't go away, a resentment that weighs on your shoulders, a hurt that seems to reside in your chest. It's like carrying an invisible weight around, day after day. You don't even realize how much it weighs you down, until one day you no longer have the strength to smile. Carl Jung said, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. And choosing to become someone at peace requires courage to leave behind what no longer serves. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's not pretending it didn't hurt. It's not absolving the other person of their responsibilities. It's simply freeing yourself from the burden of carrying the same wound forever. Because holding a grudge doesn't punish the person who hurt you, it only punishes you. Emma discovered this when, years after being betrayed by her best friend, she realized she was still dreaming about that scene. The betrayal cost her a promotion at work, old friendships, and her self-confidence. For a long time, Emma had harbored the fantasy of a reckoning, of finally proving herself right, of showing everyone that she didn't deserve this. And this fantasy kept her prisoner. She realized this every morning, waking up exhausted, feeling a heavy heart, realizing that even if no one hurt her anymore, she continued to hurt herself every day. Until one day, sitting alone in a park, she did a simple exercise. He closed his eyes and imagined the pain as a dark stone between his hands. He felt her weight, he felt her coldness, and with a long, slow breath, he decided to let go. He imagined the stone falling onto the grass, falling behind. She opened her eyes, and for the first time in years, her chest felt light. Because letting go doesn't erase the past, but it prevents him from defining the present. The shadow will always try to convince you that it's not fair to forgive. It's not right to move on. It's not worthy to let go. She will whisper, you need revenge. You can't let it go unpunished. You can't let them forget you. But the shadow only says this because it fears being forgotten. The shadow prefers that you remain trapped in the pain, because that keeps it alive. But you are not your shadow. You are more than her. There is no formula for letting go. Everyone finds their own ritual, their own way to get rid of the weight. Some write letters they never send. Others go to the top of a mountain and scream until their voices disappear. Others simply wake up one day and realize they no longer hurt. All paths are valid. What matters is that you do it for yourself. Letting go is not being weak. On the contrary, it is one of the greatest signs of strength, because it requires giving up the need to win and embrace the possibility of being happy. Jung said that individuation is the process of integrating all the parts of your being, even the ones you would rather ignore. And you can only integrate pain after you embrace it, learn from it, and finally let it go. Pain is not meant to be yours forever. She came to teach you something, and when you learn it, you can let it go. Maybe you're not ready to let it all out today, and that's okay. Go slowly, one thought at a time, one resentment at a time, one piece of stone at a time, one piece of stone at a time. The important thing is not to forget. Peace does not come when justice is done. It arrives when you decide that the wound no longer deserves to take up so much space inside you. When you let go, you discover something no revenge can offer: lightness. And in the lightness, finally you remember who you really are.
Once you finally let go of what isn't yours, your soul feels lighter. But lightness isn't everything.
There's still a secret to keeping the peace you've built from being lost again in the chaos of the world. Learning to find light, even in the midst of darkness. And this light has a name: gratitude. Gratitude isn't closing your eyes to what hurts. It's not pretending everything is okay. Quite the opposite. It's having the courage to open your eyes, see the pain for what it is, and still find something to be grateful for. It's almost a silent miracle, this ability to see beauty in what remains, even when so much has already been lost. Carl Jung said, "A healthy man does not torture others. It is generally the tortured who becomes the executioner." It's a stark reminder that many difficult, rude, and unfair people are just broken souls who can't deal with their own pain. And that when we forget to look on the bright side of life, we risk becoming just like them. That's why gratitude isn't just a nice gesture. It's an antidote to bitterness. David discovered this one morning, when everything seemed to be going wrong. The truck he was driving broke down early in the morning, delaying all deliveries. A customer yelled at him because he was late. The cell phone died in the middle of the road, and the rain started falling without warning. At first, David just wanted to disappear. He felt like everything in the world was against him. But sitting on the truck seat, waiting for help, he noticed something. In the soft music coming from the radio, in the food I still had in my pocket, remembering that, at the end of the day, I would go home and see my daughter's smile. And he understood, maybe he couldn't change the rain, nor the customer, nor the delay, but I could change where I put my eyes. And in doing so, he realized that the darkness was not so impenetrable after all. Because gratitude always lights little candles in the dark. We often let ourselves be blinded by the shadow of others. We get so caught up in harsh words, injustices, and cold gestures that we forget to notice the small blessings around us. But if we want our peace to be lasting, it is not enough to simply push away the negative. It is necessary to cultivate the positive, even if it is small. The secret is to train your eyes to see, because everything we feed within us grows. If we feed anger, anger grows. If we nurture gratitude, gratitude flourishes. And in the soil of gratitude, peace is strengthened. It's not easy, especially when the people around you keep acting the same way, shooting the same arrows, trying to drag you into their drama. But that's precisely why gratitude is powerful, because it doesn't depend on what others do. It depends only on you. Jung said that light is not born by denying darkness, but by accepting it. And gratitude does this. It doesn't erase the pain, but it balances the scales. It shows that, even in the midst of insults, criticism, and difficulties, there is still something to be grateful for, even if it's just for still being here, for still being able to try again tomorrow. Over time, you realize that peace is not an impenetrable wall. She is more like a fragile garden, which needs to be watered every day with small gestures of love, with small words of appreciation, with small glances at what is right, and not just what is wrong. And if you don't take care of it, it can wither. But if you take care, even the biggest storms can't destroy it. Gratitude is the root of this garden. It keeps you grounded, centered, grounded. And when you are well rooted, no wind can tear away your peace. So breathe, look around, and even if everything seems dark, find something to be grateful for. Even if it's just the simple fact that I still have the strength to try again. And in that silent moment, you will realize the light was always there, waiting for you to see her. Cultivating gratitude is like lighting a flashlight within your heart. But even with that light on, there will be days when the world seems intent on extinguishing it. Impatient people, judgmental glances, hurtful words, and that's when the real test begins. When no one is watching, when no one is holding you accountable, when only you know what you're feeling, what do you choose to do? Inner peace isn't revealed in grand speeches, but in the small choices no one sees, in the way you choose to respond silently to contempt, in the way you decide not to carry grudges, even when you have every reason to, in the lightness with which you carry on, even when everything around you seems heavy. Carl Jung said, "Freedom extends only as far as responsibility begins." And on this path you're on, learning to deal with difficult people without losing your peace means taking responsibility for these intimate, subtle, and often invisible choices. Lisa learned this in the silence of a classroom. A passionate teacher, she dedicated herself to her students with everything she had. But there was always that one student, disrespectful, disinterested, sarcastic. With every lesson, he tested her limits, and with every provocation, she felt anger lurking within. But instead of retaliating or humiliating, Lisa chose something different, looking beyond the behavior. One day, after yet another blunt response, she took a deep breath and said, "I don't know what you're facing outside of here, but inside you have someone who believes in you." The silence in the room was immediate, and for the first time that student lowered his eyes, without irony, without rebellion. Lisa didn't transform the student overnight, but she transformed something within herself. She realized that by choosing to act from her truth, and not from the provocation of others, she not only preserved her peace, but also planted seeds of change where there had previously been resistance. These are the choices that make you who you are. It's not about being passive, nor about swallowing everything in the name of harmony. It's about discernment. It's about understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, and that sometimes your silence is more powerful than any sharp response. What difficult people expect from you is the predictable reaction. They expect you to lose control, to defend yourself with the same venom, to play the same game. But when you respond with serenity, with clarity, with awareness, you break the cycle. And more than that, you show that you are master of your inner world. Ondebi's small victories, invisible to outsiders, are the pillars of your emotional strength. It's when you choose to listen instead of attacking. It's when you choose to embrace instead of judge. It's when you decide to leave the scene without carrying the anger with you. These decisions, accumulated over time, build something precious: integrity. You begin to become someone who lives in coherence with what you feel, with what you believe. And that doesn't mean you won't get angry anymore. You won't feel sad or frustrated anymore. It just means that those emotions no longer own you. Jung taught us that individuation is not a destination, but a process, a silent polishing that happens within each choice. And it is precisely these choices that day after day shape the kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that is born of honesty with one's own values. It is possible that along this path you will stumble. Maybe one day you lose your patience, another day you close yourself off, another day you want to react like before. All good. Emotional maturity is not measured by perfection, but by the intention to get back on track whenever you stray from it. So, if someone tries to destabilize you today, remember the true answer isn't in sharp words. It's in the silence that comes from understanding. in the small gesture that no one sees, but that you know you did with a firm heart. And that's what matters. And if at any point in this journey, you've experienced one of these secret choices, if you chose silence, calm, pause, non-judgment, share it, comment. Maybe your story is just what someone else needs to hear to continue down that same path. As you learn to breathe before reacting, to choose consciously, to set limits, to let go of burdens, to see gratitude, and make small, invisible choices, a new awareness emerges, perhaps one of the most difficult to assimilate, understanding that another's pain is not yours. For much of your life, you believed you needed to fix everything, that you needed to be kind even to those who were cruel, that you needed to give in so as not to hurt anyone, that you needed to carry the suffering of those who crossed your path on your shoulders, and so you folded. You got lost. You got confused with other people's shadows. But there is a point on the path where the soul finally understands. You can feel compassion without carrying it. You can understand without blaming yourself. You can be human without being a martyr. Carl Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others." And maybe only now does this sentence make sense. Because when you recognize your own shadow, it stops dragging you down. And this gives you the clarity to realize that much of what others dump on you does not belong to you. When someone verbally abuses you, they're usually not talking about you. They're talking about their own frustration. When someone rejects you, it's almost always because they can't accept themselves. When someone puts you down, it's their own insecurity trying to make themselves look big. That's what David learned from his father. His father had always been a difficult, bitter, harsh man. For years, David tried to please him. Good grades, good jobs, kind gestures, always searching for a smile that never came. And every time he was ignored or criticized, David believed the problem was him. But one day, as an adult, sitting at the table with that silent man, David finally saw the obvious. His father didn't know how to love, because he had never felt loved. The pain he carried was not his son's responsibility to heal. And in that moment, David took a deep breath and stopped feeling guilty about a wound that wasn't his. When you understand this, peace begins to take root within you, because offenses lose their weight, charges lose their urgency, criticism loses its power to destroy what you have built. Of course, it's not easy. Sometimes the impulse to absorb everything is automatic. You find yourself mulling over harsh words, trying to understand what you did to deserve them. But over time, you learn to stop and ask, is this pain really mine? Or am I carrying something that belongs to someone else? The answer does not always come immediately, but just the act of questioning opens space for awareness, and this awareness is liberating. Jung reminded us that individuation is a process of differentiation, of discovering who you are, in essence, separate from the projections, expectations, and dramas of others. And that often means learning to give each person back responsibility for their own chaos. It's not about being cold or indifferent. The empathy is still there, intact. You continue to feel other people's pain, but without sinking into it. You continue to reach out, but without losing your balance. You continue to care, but without canceling yourself out. And that is emotional maturity. It's looking someone in the eye and saying internally, I see your pain, but I won't let it swallow me. It's refusing to be a repository for the frustrations of those who don't know how to deal with themselves. It's remaining whole, even when everything around you seems to be broken. This is one of the highest forms of peace, being in the midst of the storm without allowing it to enter you. And that doesn't make you insensitive. It makes you strong, strong enough to be present without getting lost, to love without getting sick, to listen without absorbing. And when you achieve this, you realize that life is not about changing others to feel good. It's about changing yourself so that no matter what happens, you remain who you are. Because someone else's pain can go through you, but only you decide if she stays. Over time, you begin to realize that dealing with difficult people isn't about defending yourself from them, but about not losing yourself, breathing, choosing, setting boundaries, letting go, being grateful, caring for what you feel and what isn't yours. All of this builds a center within you, a silent place where no one else can reach you. And it is from this center that something rare is born, the feeling of being whole. Most people live as fragments of themselves, one piece trying to please, another trying to protect itself, another screaming to be seen, another hiding, afraid of failing. But when you begin to integrate all these parts, as Jung taught, something changes. You are no longer disconnected pieces. You are one. Carl Jung said, "Becoming self-aware is not becoming perfect, but whole." This is the key to maintaining peace, even in the midst of chaos. Being whole doesn't mean not feeling angry. It doesn't mean not getting hurt, not faltering, not stumbling. It just means that even though you feel all of this, you remain whole. You don't tear yourself apart to fit in with others. You don't dilute yourself to be accepted. You don't give up who you are to erase other people's insecurities. This state does not arise overnight. It is carved little by little, in every choice, every silence, every limit you draw, every time you breathe before reacting. It's like polishing a rough stone. The more you work, the more the essence appears. Mia, the one who once fulfilled all the requests and ended up exhausted, discovered this over the years. Once she started saying no, letting go of guilt, and being thankful even for the bad days, she finally realized she didn't have to be everything to everyone. And that, even though she was judged, misunderstood, criticized, she could still look in the mirror and recognize herself. That is the real victory. Because difficult people don't disappear. They remain there, each with their wounds, their shadows, their provocations. But you are no longer their hostage. You remember that they have their own stories, their own abysses, and that this is not your responsibility. You learn to see without absorbing, listening without getting sick, to exist without having to conform to other people's expectations. And that doesn't mean you don't feel it. You still feel everything. The pain, the anger, the injustice, the hurt, but you feel without getting lost. You breathe, embrace what comes from within, and decide what to do with it. You don't react on impulse. You don't respond just to hurt. You don't keep quiet just to please. You act from yourself, whole. Jung believed that individuation was the ultimate goal of human life. Not perfection, not the absence of conflict, but the totality. A state where you embrace all your parts, light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, and yet walk firmly, with your feet firmly on the ground. People around you will notice. Maybe they don't understand. Maybe they'll try to test you. Maybe they say you've changed, and you really have changed. Not to be better than them, but to be better for you. To finally occupy the place that was always yours. And when you feel whole, no one can break you anymore. When someone treats you with disdain, you don't need to diminish yourself. When someone tries to manipulate you, you don't have to bend. When someone tries to hurt you, you don't have to retaliate. Because peace does not live in a world without noise. She lives in a whole heart, which no longer allows itself to be shattered by the noise of the world. This is the most precious gift of all these steps. Being able to be who you are, complete, whole, even in front of the most difficult people, and realizing that, in the end, that's why it's all worth it. After everything we've seen, maybe you already feel something different inside you. A new lightness, a space that was once too full to exist, now open to something greater. This is the journey Carl Jung spoke so much about, the path of individuation, the process of becoming whole, of finding peace in the midst of chaos, of no longer being swept away by other people's storms. And this journey is not for everyone. Not because it's difficult, but because it requires courage. Courage to look within, face the shadow, assume your own power, set limits, let go of what weighs you down, cultivate gratitude, make silent choices, understand the pain of others without taking it upon yourself, and finally, become whole. You who have come this far are doing something that many do not even dare to try. You are allowing yourself to grow. You are allowing yourself to transform your relationship with the world, with difficult people, and most importantly, with yourself. This is an enormous privilege, because true freedom is not outside, it is inside. Carl Jung left us a precious legacy, the possibility of understanding ourselves so that no one else can control our peace. Now this inheritance is in your hands. You can decide what to do with it. And the first choice, which you've already made by watching this far, is to continue. Continue this silent and powerful journey of self-knowledge and transformation. If these words touched your heart, if you felt the strength that comes from deep reflection, I invite you to continue with us. Sign up so you don't miss the next steps on this path. Like this video so more people can find that light in the shadows. And most importantly, leave your comment below. Tell us which of these truths touched you the most. Share your challenges, your achievements, your doubts, because the journey is not a solitary one. It is made up of encounters, of intertwining stories, of people who recognize themselves in each other's mirror. You are part of this community that chooses peace in the midst of chaos, that chooses awareness in the face of pain, that chooses courage over fear, and that makes you special. You're not just watching a video, you are participating in a movement of transformation. So celebrate this moment. Celebrate the courage you had to look within. Celebrate the strength you have to continue choosing peace, even when the world insists on challenging you. Because true victory is not feeling angry or sad, it's choosing every day to be who you really are, whole, human, free. And always remember, the privilege of a full life is to be yourself, with all its shadows and lights, and keep walking, always forward, always in peace.